Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello again, everyone. I am so excited about this feature episode with Elysa Weissbaum from Protan. Protan and I wanted to give you guys information direct from the source. And if you don't know, Protan is the leader in the competition tanning industry and has been a staple for competitors for over 33 years, ranking #1 in product quality, development, and service. I've personally been using the DIY kits this year, and I can't wait to meet the team at a national, regional, and one-day professional show. They have been the official tanning company for 16 years at the Olympia shows, so that further showcases them as the most trusted in the industry. And I feel so grateful to be part of Team Protan. And if you feel inspired after hearing this episode or even now to learn more, you can visit protanusa.com and use my code Celeste for a discount on their products. I promise you guys, this episode is not just going to be like one big commercial. We're going to get into some awesome like juicy stuff and some really great questions regarding like tanning and tan prep, and just want to give you guys, like I said, the information from the source. And of course, I'm bringing on Elysa Weissbaum to do that, and she's going to discuss not just the skin prep and the product usage, but what goes on backstage, inside info from the brand coordinator herself. She trains, educates, and manages events, sales, customers, and athletes for Protan, so she is the go-to girl. She loves competition tanning and has been in the sunless tanning space for years. She loves building real relationships with athletes, which is very clear to me. And throughout their competition journey, she loves to celebrate them and get everyone involved in the process of tanning, even backstage, to make memories a top priority at every single show. And outside of Protan, Elysa has her heart focused on service in the special needs community and in her passions for traveling the world. So really grateful to have you here, Elysa. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. So happy to have you. And instead of asking you a question I ask everyone, which is what they do before they hit the stage, I want to ask you what you do to mentally prepare yourself for a day of show day tanning.
Honestly, I have a ritual, whether I'm on an airplane or if I have, some downtime, which is really rare, after like a setup or something, that I look over. And if you were to look in my phone on like my Apple Music, you'd see it. I almost make a playlist for every single contest. And I think that's key. It keeps me really motivated and in a good mood. It keeps the girls in a really good mood, in a good place, and it kind of sets the tone for everything, including the athletes too. We have a really good time. So if you've ever been, in our rooms, there's probably music bumping, and if I'm there, it's most likely coming from my phone. So that's kind of like the ritual, is like looking over my playlist and making sure if there was like new music that I liked from like that week before. If I'm using the same playlist from like the weekend before that, I kind of add my new music in there. And then once that speaker goes on and then shuffle gets hit, it's kind of game time from there.
That's awesome. Do you have it specifically timed as well with like how long you'll be there?
No, sometimes when it's one of those, you know, long days of, let's use like nationals for an example, where you kind of finish everybody's, base or top coat tans in the morning and you're starting super early in the morning. And I stay in the spray room a lot. It's kind of where my heart and soul lies. So we might move into like base tans for like men the following day. It'll loop pretty much, um, because it's not just like my entire Apple Music playlist, but
Yeah.
it'll loop often, probably a couple times.
That's awesome. So you prefer to be in the spray tanning area. So what exactly is it about that portion of the process that lights you up or that you feel drawn to?
I think it's kind of I prefer getting to somebody when it's all settling in and like setting in. I feel like an athlete goes to registration and, okay, they get their number, they do their weigh-in, they get their suit checked, get any other information. But I feel like once you start tanning, it makes it official, like it's going
Mhm.
down, like it's your war paint,
Yes.
Um, and I've always, I come from the sunless space. So, forever ago when I was an independent spray tanner, I far more enjoyed a competition tanning client than I did like an everyday spray tan, whether it was just for, just because to be tan, or, they were having a special event or a wedding or something. I've just always enjoyed the spray tan part of it. But in the athlete space, in the competition tanning space, it's kind of my opportunity to get my hands on them first. And, you know, from the beginning of their experience, because I'm the one that's kind of starting their competition weekend experience, I kind of can make a larger impact there.
Mm. Yeah, that's really awesome. And you said too that you like to like make the most of their time backstage and start sparking those memories to be made. So, what are some things you've done that you don't think other tanning companies would do or other tanning people are doing, or maybe that some competitors would be surprised by?
Um, Probably the biggest and most memorable move I'm known to make um, is I'm known to take athletes, children, or spouses into the spray room.
Yes.
I give them a mask and gloves, um, put the gun in their hand, kind of put my hand over theirs, asking a child when they're kind of going along with mom or dad to a contest. They're pretty much majority of them are because they want to, not because they have to. They want to be part of mom or dad's weekend, or, their significant other's weekend. And so I really think that that's probably my like biggest thing that I would be known for doing, on setting that memory up. A few years ago at the Arnold, Janet's daughter sprayed her back with me.
Oh,
Ricky
that's
Moten is a
awesome.
classic physique competitor. His daughter has been in the spray room with me. And, those are just a couple of pros to mention, but countless, everyday athletes, competing on the amateur level. I've taken them back there with me and gotten a picture, and it's kind of a memory that they'll have forever. And some of those kids tell their parents and still talk about it 3-4 years later, and I get to hear about it. So that's kind of the best
Oh.
part for me.
That is so cool. I love that. That's like just showcases your genuine care and appreciation for the athletes and for the actual process itself and the passion that you have in it. So, when you're actually tanning people backstage, what's going through your mind?
So most of the time, we're not always just backstage. We're normally in like conference rooms or ballrooms. It's rare that we are actually, backstage in the hustle and bustle of everything else that's going on too. But probably what goes through my mind is making sure that everybody's in and out in a timely fashion, because the biggest thing you'll always hear is I'm cold.
That's for sure.
It's not enjoyable. So I guess from like a work standpoint, like that's what's always on my mind is I want to get you in there, get you tanned, get you dry, and get you out for your comfort. But I guess from the personal, like mushy side, since I do have a very personal mushy side, uh, going through my mind is a lot of what the athlete has been through. And I know it's the same. It's not just for me. It's the pro tan chicas all around. Is we really try and um, empathize with every single athlete, whatever their story has been. So, this year, for an example, going through a global pandemic and the challenges that came from that, and changing training routines and, life routines and everything like that. But even in the past, having the athletes where they open up to you about a scar that they have from a tummy tuck because they lost 200 pounds, and, the athlete who has 5 children and a full-time job and juggle all of it and did it for them. And so, from that personal mushy gushy side of me, going through my mind is always like, what was their story to get here, and how can I make this like the best experience for them?
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that because it's a real journey for every single athlete, and every athlete has a different story. And so I'm sure you've heard a lot of amazing ones, and even just those examples you provided, those are the types of stories that I love. And we talked about this, a couple weeks ago about how on this platform, I really like to highlight those stories and empower athletes, and also show athletes like there's so much more to it than the actual stage and the show day and all of these things that we see on the surface. And you mentioned that people are uncomfortable or in the tanning room, I should say, because of it gets cold, you're standing there a lot of times, like especially the first day, like butt naked, and you're in front of these blowing fans drying off. So what do you do to reassure maybe some competitors who are nervous about the tanning process or don't know really what to expect? Like, how can you prepare them for that?
So the first thing, and it's something that, you know, there's other people that are part of management, all over the country as well for Protan, where while I might serve a corporate role and then some, the other parties within the Protan Chicas are incredibly involved in a lot of the things we do. And thankfully, those girls also know service really well. And so we talk a lot, especially when it comes to having a new spray tanner that we're training, is that there should always be some sort of introduction that can almost immediately get an athlete to trust you to a certain extent. Whether that's if you're from the area and you're talking about things around the area or where they train, or making a connection, or giving a compliment that makes them feel good about themselves, or with women, for example, talking about what their suit looks like, or are you excited to be all dolled up the next morning. Something like that normally kind of brings somebody in, and that opens that door to trust, and being a little bit more comfortable. And normally, if I could break through that, and we're very, very good at it, we have only about 50 or less people that work for the Protan organization as spray tanners, and infamously known as the Protan Chicas.
Mhm.
Everybody's pretty personable, and everybody pretty much does that and knows that. So if we can kind of break through that, we know we have your trust and comfort across the board. And then we can kind of go from there, whether it's they're cold or, they're nude. We do try and provide as much of a safe and private space as possible in those tanning rooms. So it is limited. But that's pretty much where we start, and that kind of opens the doors of comfort for everywhere else.
Love that. I love that you have a process, and it's something that you guys have really considered and taken pride in as well, so that athletes can have such a great experience, positive experience, and feel, that they can trust you and be safe back there. So have you ever personally been nervous tanning someone or at specific shows?
Um, Not really. It's kind of second nature to me. Uh, the joke is that I could do this blindfolded and with the lights off, because I actually have had to do it with the lights off.
Wow.
Of, we've all faced, different circumstances to where we can pound on our chest, feel like I could spray tan anybody. But in terms of nerves, I mean, nothing's really ever gotten me nervous or made something different go through my mind. There's definitely some critical coaches out there that, while I do have a relationship with them now, in the beginning, we might they might not have worked with us before, whether it was me personally, on behalf of Protan or another spray tanner, or, they do get a little bit critical. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's very rare that makes me, I don't know if nervous would be the right word, but it gets me thinking a little bit harder than I typically would, because I kind of aim to please no matter what. I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, and I need to be needed in a way.
Yep.
But not really. I mean, even going up to on the professional level, where it's not just any professional contest. It's a contest like the Arnold Classic or the Olympia. It's still second nature to me a little bit. And the good thing is that even if I did have any like doubts or nerves, the women that work with me, and that I have the honor of working with. We're also known for making decisions together and problem solving or bouncing ideas off of each other. So thankfully, I've never been where I'm like shaking in my boots.
That's awesome. I love that. It's clear that you guys are a real team. And you just mentioned something that stood out to me, which was how sometimes coaches will approach you with, oh, I want my athlete tan this way, or maybe they've never worked with you guys, so they don't know the pro tan process. So how do you address athletes who come to you with those types of concerns from their coach or the coach themselves?
So there's the professional side of it, is that you give the customer what they want. And then there's the hardcore truth. And the hardcore honest part of it is that I don't tell a prep coach how to prep their client. So don't tell a professional spray tanner how to spray a client. And it's a very touchy subject in a way. And I honestly, I attribute a lot of that to, I might be in one place and there might be another tanning organization at another contest that they're competing in. That coach might have had a poor experience elsewhere 3 weeks prior, and it might have been so awful. And I could definitely sympathize with it. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be the best in the world being pro tan, or it could be, somebody that just decided they could be a competition tanner. That trust has to be rebuilt with them, and that rapport has to be built with them. It's challenging for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's challenging, I think, for us as professionals in what we do and in our craft of it, to not kind of slam the door.
Yeah,
And
of
be like, nah,
course.
like go away, bye. Like, I don't tell you what to do, don't tell me what to do. But it really just comes down to education, which is something that Protan as a whole really constantly, always, nonstop, always will do, for people just like that who don't know and need to know. And whether that's something through our social media or marketing or by word of mouth through somebody like yourself, um, it all comes down to education. And once they're educated, and that rapport is built, you're kind of smooth sailing from there with them.
No, absolutely. I personally had apprehensions to doing and using the DIY kit because I was like, I don't know if I can trust myself. I don't know if it's actually as easy as everyone makes it seem. And I asked Protan on Instagram, and I would reach out to other athletes who are using it, and I talked to my coach and I tested it myself. There were a lot of steps that I took as well, but the support and the education did go a long way, which leaves me wondering if there's anything that you personally feel like needs to be known by competitors or by coaches when it comes to the tanning and the actual competition tan look and what you're taking into consideration as the tanning company at these shows.
Darker isn't better there. I don't even need to think about that one. Darker does not always mean better. There's a lot of things, but that's the first thing that pops into my mind all the time. There's such conflicting information, and it's coming from various sources. Protans remain consistent in what our teachings have been. Protan has also remained a company that can evolve, adapt, and overcome. For example, when stage lights were getting a lot brighter and physiques were getting a lot larger, and athletes were getting darker, somehow we created a product, I believe it was 7 or 8 years ago, and that's what everybody knows to be as top coat right now, because that there was a need for that in our industry. We went to the drawing board and we did what we needed to do to move along with it, but it doesn't always mean that it's better. Going back to the whole, darker doesn't mean it's better, but I think as a whole, with the whole education side of it, I wish that our world would just, everybody would be on the same page. And when I say everybody, I literally mean everybody. I mean the tanning company, to the coach, to the athlete, to the judge that's on stage. If we could all get on the same page, I think our industry would be in a lot better shape right now, and there wouldn't be such conflicting pieces of education coming around. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Like instead of an athlete getting feedback from a judge, hearing one thing about the tan, and then their coach was saying another thing, and then you guys have your specific process and you're providing this education in another way, rather than having all these different pieces of information focusing on one across the board, almost like a part of a criteria.
Exactly. And that's definitely something. And I know at some point, Stacy Kaufman, who is the creator, owner, and president of Protan, he'll listen to this and just give me a huge high five and hug for this. But it's something we've constantly tried to do. It's something Protan, we've felt that being the leader comes with responsibility. And that responsibility is taking those education efforts seriously. And I don't think we'll ever quit trying to do that where it's coming from the top, of Protan or the leader in competition tanning to every single aspect of who's involved in that competition, period of time, being that athlete, that coach, and the judges as well, because it's definitely a hard task to take on, and we constantly are doing it.
Absolutely. And being honestly the face of tanning in bodybuilding, especially doing a show like the Olympia for so many years, you're in a really sweet spot to do that and a really awesome position to do that. But it left me wondering how your preparation for tanning at a show like the Olympia versus a regional show or a national show or any other pro show might be different. Do you take a different approach for the Olympia versus the other ones?
You mean us as like an entire tanning organization from like the coordination and like tanning standpoint?
Yes, exactly. And
Coordination's a lot harder.
I'm
um,
sure.
Fortunately, not much has changed in terms of how those larger shows, I won't just like single out one, but a lot of things remain consistent with events. Um, from a regional level, once we build that rapport with like a promoter and that communication is open, it makes my life a lot easier from the logistical standpoint. And then tanning just kind of flows in. Like I said before, we have a phenomenal team of managers that go to these places around the country. And most of the managers are kind of stationed in a region where we do have a lot of contests, like the Midwest, Florida, Texas, um, up north, and then they also travel as well. So we have a great crew from management down to our spray tanners, that it's just kind of smooth sailing for us. There's not much thought. It's kind of just the same thing. We know what to do. We're getting there. We're setting up. We're tanning. I have this saying that I swear by, and it's show up, shut up, and spray.
That's awesome.
That's kind of consistent with us. But for like the larger contests, which I'm sure people would want to know about, like what planning goes into the Olympia for us, it's quite a lot. Um, we have a lot of professional athletes to keep track of and make sure that they're looking their absolute best on stage. But again, like our treatment goes the same way, regardless of where we are or who we're with. Whoever's standing in my tent, it's still a body, it's still an athlete, it's still a client of Protan. I should still be treating them with dignity and respect. I should still be doing the absolute best job that I'm capable of doing. So not much changes at all, to be honest.
That's really cool. I love that there's the actual approach to it in the sense of how you treat them doesn't change. It's more so the coordination and the management side. And even that doesn't really change much because you guys are always taking pride in what you're doing and managing the athletes well. And I've honestly always wondered if there's been a difference in communication from athletes. Like, is there a noticeable difference between how an amateur communicates with you versus a professional athlete?
Yes. um, the difference, and I don't know, chicas, if when you listen to this, text me and let me know if you disagree. I, I think an amateur has this really big, massive goal, and it doesn't dismiss what a professional athlete's large, massive goal is. Everybody wants to get on stage, be their best, beat their last package, win a show, qualify for the Olympia, advance into other areas of their competition career. But sometimes, mostly I've noticed that there is a difference, and transparently put, if that's even a word, um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of professionals, because they're just used to it, I guess they've done it so many times, they know what they're looking for, they know what they're expecting. They're a lot more chill in the tents. So for my amateur athletes, uh, take a chill pill. we, we got you. We're not going to let you fail. We're going to do the absolute best job for you. Obviously, coming with that comfort level and our amazing playlists in that room. But yeah, there is sometimes a noticeable difference between the two, and even though it could be a little disheartening, there definitely have been athletes that there's other variables that have put them kind of in a specific mood or mindset having nothing to do with us, and we kind of become either the doormat or the punching bag.
Mm.
But that kind of goes back to what I was saying about setting the tone for everything. When situations like that come up, I very much believe that it's our job to turn it around, and so we do.
Wow, that's amazing. I really appreciate you painting the difference between or your experiences. And what's sad though about what you said is that sometimes you can become the punching bag or the doormat. And as we've all had those moments in our life, of course, where something really bothers us and we end up letting it get the best of us and it comes out in another area of our life, which isn't ideal, of course. But do you mind sharing like some of the really positive experience you've had as well as maybe some of the worst experiences you've had doing this?
From the negative side, I'm going to start with the bad so I can end with the good. Um, we have had a I don't want to call it a situation. This isn't Jersey Shore, but an encounter. This is one thing that comes to mind where we educated as we should. We took the extra mile to take time out of our busy schedule on site to educate, and advise against something. And when, an athlete decided I was wrong, that Protan was wrong, and it wasn't me. I was just an observer to this, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we ended up, delivering what said athlete had wanted, which was more coach than what was needed. Um, and it was very disheartening to hear, the way an athlete had spoken to a service provider, and you don't know what happened. You don't know if something just bothered them or somebody said something to them about it and they had no idea, and it maybe put doubt in that athlete's mind. You don't know what happened, but it's also not your job to sit down and completely analyze all the factors that occurred before that. um,
Right.
and then once that kind of happened, there was definitely a change in things. So that's one situation I could kind of bring up, and unfortunately it has happened often, and there's times where those athletes will, once you do take that time to educate them, then it kind of all clicks, the light bulb goes off, and then they kind of trust you a little bit more because you did take that time, um, to educate them, I guess you could say. On the
Mm-hmm.
positive note, this weekend I could use as an example. I went to the Texas State, in Arlington, so right outside of the city of Dallas in Texas. It is the state show. Ed and Betty Pariso are the promoters. You might be familiar with not only their Texas contests, but they're also the promoter and organizers of the Europa Games, which are held in Dallas, Orlando, and Phoenix. And there were a whopping 6 athletes I had that, just like I mentioned before, probably because it's fresh on my mind, that had a skin revision surgery
Mm-hmm.
because they had lost so much weight. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I got the chance to talk to them more about competing. It was their first show. I got to teach them more about the process of everything. I can go on and on about it. I could like cry in that room just to
Oh,
hear like people's stories. You know, it's kind of really touching to it.
wow.
So I mean, I think that's like the positive of the of stories or things that have happened that I've had those opportunities. And it's not just me, you know, I know it's just me talking right now, but there's 40 to 50 other women around the country that represent our brand that get the same honor. So that's kind
Mm.
of cool.
I so love that. Like, as an athlete, it's really nice hearing that because I think, when you're like, I know personally, like, I've gone in to get tanned or I've been talking to people checking us in for the show or expediters or anything like that. And it's like, you're so excited. Sometimes it just comes out like your journey or, they ask you a question about it. And in your back of your mind, you're like, do they really care? Do they really want to know? And it's awesome to hear that, like, that's actually one of the best parts for you.
You
And
know,
you yeah, like that is so cool to just know that.
yeah. And, you know, everybody, um, we've trained a lot of people over the years. Some that have been with us for 15 years, some that, you know, joined this year. And I always talk to them about finding their why, and I have my why and what, you know, my first encounter was with, you know, that positive encounter with an athlete was. And then I always tell them about, just because I always stick to my same story so I can be consistent in what I tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have a very good memory. I don't know what day it is, but I always bring up, you know, my why in the encounter on why I now do this completely full time and how much that athlete had like impacted me. And then I always talk to them about how you're going to find your persons and your people, and your person or your people are going to be those ones where you might be doing a lot of contests in, you know, the same area. So for example, Texas, we have a ton of contests. The Midwest, we have a ton of contests. And then we do, you know, quite a bit in Florida as well, and then all over. But I'm just naming a couple of regions that are very populated for us and not just those like sparse ones around the country. But you'll find your person, and your person's going to be somebody that you see them at contest after contest on a regional level. And then they go somewhere with you on a national level and you see them there, and you don't know this person from Adam, and you don't know that much about them, but show after show, you learn more about them and you learn more about their story and what they do and their family and this and that and where they're from and how they're doing. And, you know, they told you something the last time, so you follow up with them about it this time, and then they go pro.
Mm.
And they walk off stage and they come to find you with tears in their eyes and to take a picture. For me, that person is Zoe Panzerino,
Mm-hmm.
because I had the pleasure randomly of always having Zoe in my tent for years, before she earned her professional status. And so I always use like that story as an example, is regional show after regional show, stepping in my tent, following up, following what's going on in, you know, on social media with that person, to one national show, to two national shows, to getting off stage after hearing, you know, their name called that says, and new, you know, IFBB pro. Those are the deep moments that athletes have no idea happen.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's just so cool how invested you are in the journey of every athlete and the fact that you do get to witness that. You do get to see the behind the scenes, and you guys aren't just a tanning company either. And I think that's very apparent here as well, is that you're not just, okay, show up and yeah, show up, shut up and spray, right? But also like there's that care and there's that attention to detail and like understanding and communicating with these girls who come in your tent. And I just think that that is really cool. And of course, from an athlete perspective, again, like I hear that and think, oh, I would love to be able to make the tanning company's life easier. So is there anything that people have done that has really helped you in moving the show along or helping other athletes or getting everyone's tan right or just made your day go better?
Feeding us. There's somebody in Austin a couple months ago that came over with voodoo donuts. I've never had one in my life. I've never been this like massive sweet person, and I'm still not, but like I've never been like so informed about stuffed cookies and gourmet donuts until I was a competition tanner
Oh no.
because of you guys. But she came over and brought the whole crew like 2 dozen donuts.
Wow.
There was no need for it. But said to me, if I've been telling people this my entire competition career, if you're not here to impress and please the spray tanners, you're doing this wrong. And we laugh. I mean, it was a joke. Like we laughed about it. Like it was funny, but it was just nice because it was somebody that like showed gratitude,
Yeah.
for what we did. And that's cool. But from an athlete perspective, I know I love nothing more than to watch relationships being cultivated in that spray room, whether it doesn't have to be us spray tanners, but you have no choice but to talk to the person in the tent next to you naked.
True.
Um, and so it's so nice too when you have maybe a first time competitor and next to you is somebody that's been doing this for a long time too, and they might have overheard, you talking about that you're nervous or that it's your first show or whatever it is, first time doing this specific show, and maybe the person next to you has done the show, and just watching that kind of kick off. And I can then kind of pass, my job of the easing to that
Yeah.
athlete that's helping that newbie. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's so true. That is definitely a benefit to doing like the spray tanning. And I mean, obviously, there's the DIY kit, which I use and I really like because it saved me a lot of time and energy. And I knew I was going to get the tan that I wanted at the shows that I was doing. But at the same time, like anytime I would get the opportunity to do a spray tan with you guys, like I would totally jump on it. One, because of what you've shared here, but also because those connections really are powerful and they are so, I mean, you remember that, like there's conversations I've had with girls back there and I remember them still, and it is a really cool part of the sport, I think. And some girls have even messaged me like, does it get really smelly and is it really awkward? And it's like, no, like everyone's in the same boat, and I think that's really cool, and you get to witness that as well.
Yeah, I think our tanning rooms become this like sorority house for the
Oh my
time
god.
and watching. I mean, that I'm just saying that those are the girls. I'm using references from like
Yeah.
a female perspective, but even on the male side, it's hilarious. Like it's
Yeah, what's that
funny
like?
walking in and just seeing this group of guys that step out of a drying tent and they're all just kind of circled around each other, going through their mandatories and pumping them up, and it's almost like this big cheer circle. I just want to like show up with pom poms behind them. I mean, it's funny and it's sweet and it's touching, and it kind of makes that room even more special than it is. I always say that those rooms are sacred.
That's awesome. Do you end up looking forward to shows and also maybe grieving them when they're done?
I do, but I think I'd be lying to you if I said the grieving process was more because I part from the girls
Mm.
than it is parting from the athletes. Um, but they say if you love what you do, like you'll never work another day in your life. And it is really hard work for us. But for me personally, and I know I could speak for a lot of the other girls too, when I say like that grief comes from the fact of sometimes I have the pleasure of working with somebody that is in a different region and our paths might not cross for 6 months to a year. That's more where like my sadness comes from. I'm always more pumped to go equally for the athlete connection and service and seeing the girls than the other way around where I part. I'm just kind of ready for the show to be wrapped up and over, but I'm sad to obviously see my beloved chicas get on a different plane than me.
Mm. Yeah, that would be really tough, especially because then that communication with them it'll look different, and you were so used to you got used to communicating online. Maybe that's how you always do it, and then you got to see them, and it was like, yay, this is awesome. And then it's like, oh no, back to how it
Yeah,
was. So
yeah, it is.
yes, that would definitely be hard. And I want to even just transition to kind of talking about actually making like the tan the best that it can be from your perspective as well as from a DIY perspective. But is there anything else you wanted to share from like that personal side of things? I'm sure more will probably come up, but is there anything else that I didn't ask you about regarding that you wanted to share?
No, those were all really great and deep, but just always know we got you. We love you. We don't know you, but in those 5 minutes, we'll become your family. And, there's a reason why we've stayed above. And a lot of it has to do with, obviously the trust in our product. Our product is consistent and amazing, but a lot of those interactions come down to the people. So love on us and we'll love on you. And I'll see y'all at the next one.
Oh, I love that. That is so awesome. It's so clearly genuine as well. And I appreciate you being open to about those things. So let's talk about the actual like skin prep and the education around getting ready for a tan and taking care of your skin pre-tan as well as post-show. So do you mind breaking down maybe your best insights or processes for these?
So a lot of it again comes down to the education. So I'm glad that, there's platforms like this that we could share that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to your tanning company and don't stray away from anything they say. that's like my biggest thing. I hear all the time, I didn't, so I just. I couldn't. Well, you could, you chose not to. But I couldn't, so I did that, And when it comes to skin preparation, you have to think of it as a blank canvas, and having the cleanest blank canvas to have the most beautiful masterpiece afterwards. And if you don't treat your body like a canvas, or you have to do the work that goes into it, then you're not really doing your physique justice by the time that you get on stage. So always listen to your tanning company from, the pro tan perspective of things. We put out so much knowledge and information about that. And the only thing that everybody needs to know are these few things. Go buy Get Buffed. You won't regret it. I do not plug in that product because it's a pro tan product. I know I am biased, but I'm telling you from an unbiased place. Go buy Get Buffed. Use it for a week before your contest. Do not tear your skin. Take off all your deodorant, lotions, and perfumes, and you will be fine. I think a lot of people overcomplicate things. Oh, my coach said I can't wear deodorant for 5 days. Oh, I have really dry skin, but I have to do a competition tan on Saturday. So, my buddy told me that I can't wear lotion for 2 weeks before my contest. If I were to turn around to any of those people and ask them why, they wouldn't know why. I mean, they wouldn't be able to give me an answer as to why that has to be done. We as a company tell people what to do because we know why it has to be done. So I think from a pre-tan perspective, don't overcomplicate it. Ask questions if you need to, for clarity. And most athletes know they're competing with at least 2 weeks before a contest. That is enough time to order the proper products to make sure that you have that flawless tan. You train for 12 plus weeks, diet, do this, do that. This is one area, do not skip.
Yes, that is for sure. And also, your guys' stuff ships really quickly, so I can attest that really 2 weeks is plenty of time. So just if anyone's out there like, no, it won't come in time, shit. No, trust me, it really will. Like, I was shocked, and I will also say, the first time I used Get Buffed, I was like, I might eat this. Like,
Yeah,
it smells so good.
there's always a jumbo bottle in my shower, and people don't realize how important skin health is year round. So, I mean, you should be exfoliating every week anyway. Um, but I mean, I don't compete. I probably won't ever compete. And there's always a bottle of Get Buffed in my shower. I think it's the greatest exfoliator ever created. And prior to me being a customer of Protan or having a management role in Protan, I would go spend a lot of money on skincare products and for my body, there was a Clarins product that was a body exfoliator that Celeste, probably like $60-$70 for this bottle
Oh.
that was so bougie. Why I thought that was necessary, I have no idea. That 16-ounce 19.99 bottle of Get Buffed is like the greatest thing I've ever owned in my life.
So you have to educate us then on what is it that makes it so great? Because now I want to know the science behind it, because I don't know why is it so important to exfoliate. I don't know why it's so important not to wear the deodorant, or, you know, I have ideas and I've heard things, but it's like, what's really behind these things?
So forgive me if I get a little bit nerdy because I'm incredibly nerdy
Get
about this,
dirty.
but I will try and break it down as simply put for you.
Okay.
Your body is a canvas, like I said. Everybody's skin sheds. Everyone's different, but you could count on 7 to 14 days for everybody across the board. When you have an exfoliation process, when that skin dies, per se, that's gory, but when that skin dies, it doesn't always come off. We're not a snake. It's not going to all come off at once evenly. Like, it doesn't work like that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that all of that dead skin is off your body so that you have a clean layer that is revealed to your spray tanner. Now, the reason why you wouldn't want to use lotions, deodorants, perfumes before your tanning appointment, now important side note, women, places like your neck, your actual neck, your chest, your wrists, where are common areas where we're going to go spray perfume, are important. Perfumes have alcohols, so they dry the skin out. Sometimes they have oils. So if you're using one of those fancy $500 bottles of Bond Number 9 or Creed, it's normally a better oil than it is my $98 YSL on my countertop right now. Those things will either add too much of a barrier to the skin or will leave pretty much remnants on the skin. So your armpits, for example, you want to scrub off because we don't scrub off our deodorant every single day we get into the shower. Like, let's be real. There's times where you've gotten out of the shower and yes, you bathed, but you still smell clean cotton on your armpits. Or if you're like me, Old Spice for life, you know, there's still going to be remnants on there. So you want to make sure that you're exfoliating those things off really well every time. And that doesn't mean that you can't reapply them. You just want to work on getting those like older remnants off of the skin. Now, when it comes to the tanning process of it, and the reason why all of these things need to be done is because of the chemical makeup of what a tanning product does. A tanning product's main ingredient is called DHA, and that stands for dihydroxyacetone. Bloop, bloop, nerd alert. So what DHA does is it's a sugar polymer normally made from sugarcane or beets, and it binds to the top layer of your skin and develops. So when I have a clean, fresh layer to work with, because you've been exfoliating for so long, I have an entirely clean canvas where I can allow that product to do its job evenly, which is to be applied, set, develop, and that's how you get a tan. I'm not going to go into like why it turns, you know, that brown color or deeper or anything like that, but gradually over time it does darken based off of the percentage of that DHA that is in a product. So if you don't have that even clean layer of skin, what's going to happen is DHA is going to bind to older skin a lot more than it does fresher skin. So if you have old skin on your thigh that you didn't exfoliate well, but on your arm, it's a fresh layer of skin, it's most likely going to develop a little bit differently. And then you're also going to see that difference of color causing that uneven look. Did that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that made a lot of sense.
Okay, so a clean canvas is super duper important. I use the example often of a wall and almost like priming a wall. Look at your exfoliation as priming the body to be prepared. Now, when it comes to a product like Get Buffed, other exfoliators might have too strong of an oil base. It might have too little of those beads that you normally see. And those beads serve a specific purpose. It's to add that abrasion to the skin to get that dead skin off. Now, you shouldn't be going at your skin like crazy, scrubbing, because what that does is that causes micro tears to your skin, and it actually causes more damage than it does helping. But those beads do serve a specific purpose, and there's the right amount of beads in that Get Buff product. It also has different ingredients in it that help with skin balancing, which is a whole nother topic, but you always want your skin to be the perfectly pH balanced level to start working with that DHA that's going on your skin. So while there's the right amount of beads in it, there's the right amount of skin balancing properties to it. It smells amazing too. It's something that you could be using year round. It's just a safe product. It's the best product you can use pre-tan, but it's just a safe product. So if it isn't broken, don't fix it. If you know that there's a product out there that's going to do the job that needs to be done, then you should really just go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's not inflated. Price wise are, taken advantage of for that reason. And I think that can so often happen, or we get caught up in like another option or recommendation. And it, like you said, if you don't know the actual reason behind it, maybe it's good to ask or know. And so I appreciate that you just broke that down for us, because that is really helpful. It also, I think, like when I hear about education, when I think about education, I think that this is also a great prerequisite to action. Like people who are educated and know the reasoning behind what they're doing are going to be more likely to want to implement it, and take the proper steps. And so I appreciate that you broke that down. And I'm curious about now skin prep for back-to-back shows, because sometimes we're like, okay, well, I'm just going to scrub the crap out of this so all the tan comes off. But then if that causes those micro tears, then that could cause more problems than good. So what's the best practice with that? I mean, I know there's the tan remover. I've used that, but I'm curious if you have a recommendation to go along with that. Like, should you keep using Get Buff? Should you lotion at all? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Right. So, I mean, there's a couple ways that you can go about it, but there's pretty much your main two. You're either going to extend the tan's life, or you're going to remove the tan's life. So removing the tan's life, you would want to scrub it all off so that you have that clean canvas again. By doing so, I recommend a product like the tan remover, and then exfoliating every single day, moving forward until it's time to tan again. Some people's skin, might not be happy with that, because, if I was an unhappy layer of skin, what I would probably say is, we just did this. I'm going to hold on to whatever you just put on my body. I don't want to get rid of it yet. But it's possible to remove it. It's very much possible without being that harmful to your skin. The other thing that you could possibly do would be to extend the tan's life. So show's over, you just got off stage. First thing you want to do is get in the shower. You get in the shower and you rinse off all those cosmetic bronzers, which are just topical, which is that super dark tan. Everybody asks if they're going to be that tan, for weeks after the show because they got the tan. No, you're not. You're going to be left with a really deep natural tan post contest. So let's say you want to extend that tan's life. You would use a product that is an extender, where they deposit some DHA onto your skin, like we were just talking about, that development process. And by doing so, you're kind of keeping the skin moisturized, healthy, and happy, while also maintaining that tan in the most even way possible to be ready for another.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. So there is a product on Protan's line that's called Sunny Day, and that's the product that I recommend the most. It is colorless, so it's there's no like bronzers in it. It's a moisturizing lotion that contains some of that DHA in it. So I always recommend that that's the product that's used. And then you can kind of maintain your skin's health that week after by keeping it moisturized and happy. But while you're also kind of rebuilding that tan again, getting ready for the next one.
So if someone were to take that approach, how would that change how they then maybe use the DIY kit or go into the spray tanning tent? Is there now a different approach required for that?
More for the DIY athlete that chooses to go that route, where a lot of athletes, they'll do like one base coat, let it set, dry, develop, sleep in it, and wake up the next morning and rinse. A lot of times athletes will find that they could skip that first initial base tan building because you already have that base tan from the contest before.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So is there something that, like, let's say someone's noticing their tan after the show, it's been a couple of days, they've been using Sunny Day, but maybe there's some parts that have come off more than others from exfoliating or whatever. Like, how would a competitor know if, I'm not being very clear, how would a competitor know if doing back-to-back shows, if their skin is still okay or going to respond well to that process?
So you'll mostly be able to see it to the eye. Athletes that generally have very dry skin to begin with are athletes that I don't recommend that extending process. I do recommend you taking it off. And that's something that you'll be able to see, because if you're super dry, most likely you're going to see some sort of crack in the skin because for 2 or 3 days, you showed your skin zero moisture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're starting to tan on Wednesday or Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday until after the show, I'm using, a Saturday contest as an example. You've put zero lotion on your skin. You've had zero water to the skin. As an athlete, everybody has a different approach to how they're hydrating. There's some athletes that cut out water. And, even though you can deposit moisture from the outside, a lot of it does come from the inside. So you never really treated your skin that well those few days leading up to the show, while you start tanning, you'll be able to see it from somebody that's used to moisturizing every single day, multiple times a day, to you're not doing anything for days. You can see it.
Interesting. I mean, I know for me personally, my skin definitely gets super dry and like will crack after tanning. Like it's just normal. And so I think the non-negotiable for me there then would be to use the tan remover product for doing back-to-back shows. And how, like, I've never done it. When I did the DIY kit, I did it like Friday night and then rinsed it off Saturday morning and then reapplied. And that was like how I did it. And I mixed super dark and the regular. But if I was to start doing it on, like, let's say a Wednesday or Thursday, like you're recommending or suggesting someone might do, how would that work if they did need to use deodorant for the gym? Or would you just say don't use it at all? Like, how would you actually go about applying it?
So once the tanning process begins, all exfoliation ends. All shaving, hair removal, exfoliating, lotion use, all of that completely ends. So you could either A, embrace the stink, B, which is my most favorite, is there's girls that will wear a t-shirt, not a tank top, a t-shirt with sleeves, take a dryer sheet, put it under their armpit, outside of the t-shirt, then put a jacket on so that the dryer sheet is being held between your t-shirt and the jacket.
That's awesome.
So that's a common thing, but you don't have to wear deodorant. But if that's something where you have gym sessions that your coach is making you, go to, make sure you rinse whatever's on your skin, the cosmetic bronzers. You'll be left with a base tan, which is what you want. Go do your workout. I recommend not wearing super tight clothing. And kind of you just work with it with what you have, and then you could rinse off your sweat and reapply, another application of whatever you're using at that time.
Okay, got it. And there's also always that question of pee marks and toilet seat marks and all these other things. So what do you do to reassure girls that they can fix a pee mark themselves? And then also, how do you personally help girls or even males, I'm sure there's good situations, fix a pee mark?
So that applicator that you use as, a DIY
Mm-hmm.
applicator to your own skin, and it's the same thing that we use as professionals too. That thing is a magic eraser. That thing is amazing when properly saturated, because you just did your entire body anyway. That can be used to blend out any spot, and it's a lot easier than what it looks like, because remember, your top coat is really only topical. Um, it's just that those cosmetic bronzers that are laying on top of your skin, and while there's more to it, we've had enough nerd alerting for the day. As far as giving somebody the confidence, girls, go pee. Stop this. I got to cut a hole in a Dixie cup. Someone get me a styrofoam cup. Someone get me a wee wee tube. Go to the bathroom. If anything, if you're about to really pee a lot, put toilet paper at the bottom of, in the toilet already, to where it's kind of floating there, so you don't get any splashers. We're getting deep here, but just
Yeah.
pee. Just go to the bathroom. Like, stop with those other things. It's fixable. It's not a big deal. Most girls that I do, fix up, are because they got complicated with going to the bathroom. Just
Mhm.
go to the bathroom.
Yes, I can attest to that. I will never use a cup again. I used it one time and I was like, why do people do this? This is a mess. This is not, I don't ever go to the bathroom like this on a day-to-day basis. What made me think that now would be a good time to try?
I
Yeah,
mean, are you in everyday life, are you going to the bathroom and getting completely,
exactly.
are you getting super soaked coming from the other end of the toilet? Like, no, you're not. So where did this come, like, that's what I sit down and I wonder, like, where did this come from that suddenly everybody needs a wee wee tube and a cup and this and that? Like, I think about times I've been at a doctor and I've had to, do a urinalysis. I pray before I do that to be like, God, please, like, please,
Please
please.
don't let me get this all over my hand. Please
Right.
let me
Please
get it in
don't
the
do this.
cup.
I'm in that most awkward position. I'm holding the cup under me. Like, you guys are doing the same thing. There's just a hole at the bottom. So what's the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that reassurance and also that guidance on how to work through it. You did use the term properly saturated. What exactly does that mean?
Just not dry. You don't want it dry.
Okay.
You don't want to put that. It's like taking a dry loofah to your dry body. It's not going to do anything.
So you would say to saturate it with your competition color and
Yeah,
then
your top coat, whatever your last thing was. So
okay.
most of the time you'll put on your top coat, and most of the time you're putting that pad back into like a Ziploc. Well, that moisture is being stayed in that, is being held in that Ziploc. So it probably is already a little saturated from whatever your last application is. Just take that, blend to your booty or your leg, or however. I've seen people where it's gone straight down to the ankle before. Just blend it out a little bit. And if you think that you need a little bit more product on there, take your top coat, put it on your pad, wiggle it around a little bit, and go at it again. You could blend out anything. Think of it just as your makeup. If you were to go out into the rain after putting on foundation and your bronzer, you would probably just go back into your house with your blender or your brush and just blend it out. Same thing with your tan.
Love it. This is really insightful. Honestly, everything you're sharing, I'm like, dang, like I thought I knew like the best thing that I could do, but I really didn't know why I was doing it or what was the purpose behind it. Now I feel like I really do. But, just like all of our skin is different, our skin color is different too. So, do you have any recommendations for different skin colors or, yeah, different skin colors with the DIY kit as well as with the spray tanning?
So that's a little circumstantial. Everybody is a little bit different, just because of where, that's the beauty of us as a population and humanity. We all have a different natural skin tone. We all, that Italian olive skin, oh, gorgeous, perfect. Then you have skin like mine that's Russian and paler than no tomorrow. And then you have your redhead Irish who, ooh, much love to y'all, you're the good ones. Everybody's just going to be a little bit different, and it's really just finding what you know has been right. So to be honest, most people don't start off as a DIYer. I'm being completely honest. Most people start off as in a spray tent, not doing it themselves for the first time. So they see where they were with a base tan and they see where they need to be for, their finished tan from everything. So it's kind of just gauging it as you go to know where you're going to be. But pretty much a big standard is like 2 base coats and 1 top coat when you're DIYing. That's kind of like your basis of what you want to do. And you just want to gradually build everything. So I can't really answer and tell you what I would do might be different than what you do and what you've had success with. And that might be different from what, another redheaded Irish girl, might do a little bit differently. But I can say, shameless plug right now, a lot of people, and I tell people to do this, and you could put my email in this somewhere.
Okay.
I tell people, if you really don't know and you need some help, take one of your last check-in pictures that you sent to your coach, send it to Protan and say, hey, I want to DIY and I have no idea what I'm doing. Please help. And then a really nice person by the name of Elysa Weissbaum is going to answer your email and give you an entire protocol and products that you should purchase and probably tell you what is the most affordable way to go about it.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that. And it's true, you guys. Elysa is really helpful with my tan as well. And that's actually how we connected even further. So I'm super grateful for that. And I love that you just said that because I was hoping people would be able to know. And I was definitely going to ask you if you didn't mention it yourself, that if they can reach out and that you are so willing to help because it could be scary going into something like that on your own. And, I'm glad I've done the spray tanning side of things to see what does a tan look like on stage and on my skin and what can I expect, the night before looking at it. But it's also beneficial, like with any new product, what can I expect? What should I be doing? How can I get the most out of it? And I personally practice beforehand, which helped me to see it as well. So I love
Yeah.
that idea. And I really appreciate that you would open your inbox for people to ask. And you guys, like I said too, like please feel free to use my discount code Celeste as well at checkout when you're doing these purchases or when you're trying things out or reach out. And I'm happy to help as well or share some of my experiences too. And Elysa, I'd love if you could just give us maybe some insight or any FAQs, like anything that gets asked a lot that you want to make sure gets put out here with this episode that we haven't covered.
I think the biggest question is always that skin preparation question, because the skin preparation area is one of the larger topics that there's just so many variations of advice that come from so many different people. And we tackled that really, really well. Go us.
Yes.
But that's probably a very the biggest common, question that I get majority of the time. A lot of other times it's, the timing of applications. And my answer is almost always, the only thing I say is anywhere from 3 to 8 hours between applications. And that's kind of a big gap, but the beauty of a DIY kit is the convenience and being able to do it on your own time. And that's always my answer as well. But, timing tends to be a big question that I get, and that's the same answer you'll get every time. And those are pretty much the most common, aside from, questions that we get about what to expect at like a show when they're tanning with us, from the DIY perspective. That's pretty much what comes in majority of the time.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I can say myself, like having that flexibility with the tanning was so helpful at my last couple of shows too. And I wasn't jealous of the girls lined up waiting for the tan, but I will say that there was part of me that was like, I kind of miss getting spray tan, but the DIY kit was nice because I knew I was going to get that consistent color like you talked about earlier. And I also knew that I could do it on my own time, which was great with my coach check-ins too. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate you just answering all of my questions here and coming on and also sharing your passion with us and the things that you love most about the work that you do. And I just really appreciate your time and who you are. And of course, Protan as well. And I'm glad that we've been able to work together.
I'm very excited myself. It's nice to be able to have positive platforms in an industry like ours that, motivate, inform, educate. And I know there's so many women that this is their go-to while they're getting through their cardio or on their way to work. So I'm very proud and grateful that you've asked me to be part of it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, it makes me so happy. And I'm so glad that we covered everything that we did too. It was such an informative episode. And I can't wait for everyone to hear it. And to you guys listening, if you have any other follow-up questions or you want to know, like, when did they talk about this in the episode? Or she said skin prep was really important and they did talk about it, but I was driving or I got caught up. There's always episode timestamps for every single episode. So if you go to celestial.fit/podcast, you're going to see Elysa's episode. And I'll also make a category specifically called Protan. So you'll be able to see this episode and all the timestamps and go back. So even if you're, in your off season, you're 5 shows away, you want to test the DIY kit, or maybe you're going to be booking a tan with Protan and you want to see if they're at your show, what's the best practices, just bookmark this because you can look at the timestamps and find exactly what you're looking for. And Elysa, do you mind sharing how people can get in touch with you or maybe connect with you?
Yeah, honestly, the best way is always going to be email. And, you can link that below as well. Directly into me, is the easiest way when I'm in the office and I can answer. I also have a really bad habit of answering at like 11 o'clock midnight at night because I just want to answer your question. And clearly you're excited about it at 11 o'clock at night. So I should be excited about it at 11 o'clock at night. If you do message our Instagram, they will tell you to email Elysa.
Okay.
So skip all that and just email Elysa and I'll help you out with whatever you need. It's really something I thoroughly enjoy watching somebody go from being so skeptical about the DIY process to that Monday morning email I get saying, thank you so much. Look at my stage pictures. Like, look at how good my tan looks.
Literally me. That is how I felt. I was like, for so long, like, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I won't be able to. And then now I'm like, what was I missing out on? Like, why didn't I do this? So I appreciate that. I'll definitely put your email in the show notes page. So to you guys looking for it, it's always going to be there. Elysa, thank you so much for your time. And to everybody listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode